Today I'm going to show you how to do the applique for the gingerbread pot holder. So you're going to start with heat and bond. You want to make sure to have a heat and bond. You can have light or you can have ultra. Ultra doesn't require sewing, the light does. I like light because I'm already planning to sew it. Um, if you don't have heat and bond, you can also use an adhesive spray. This is a basting adhesive. You usually use them for quilting. So it's a very similar method. You just spray the wrong side of the material instead of using heat and bond. It's a little stickier and can get a little messier, so I prefer heat and bond, but that's totally up to you. If you do want to use heat and bond ultra versus light, that would be a really good thing to use on the dots for this. Um, Heat and bond has a paper side and it has a adhesive side that's kind of glossy. It has a sheen to it. So you want to make sure for this project that all your designs you're putting on the paper side. So you've cut out all your pieces for your gingerbread applique, and you're just going to take a Sharpie and you literally are just going to trace them onto the paper side of your heat and bond. Now again, if you just want to use a basting spray, you could cut all your pieces out in fabric first and then spray them. But if you're using heat and bond, I like to trace them onto my paper. So I have a bigger piece of paper here. And then I can press that onto my material. So here is my little door. So I'll just trace him since I've got all this extra paper here. You don't need to waste paper, but you also don't want to cut the design out yet. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a scrap piece of my fabric, the one that I'm going to use for my tree, and I am going to press my tree to the wrong side of that material. So let me just cut a little piece here and I'll show you. All right, here's my piece. I'm going to just cut out my tree here. I'm going to take my ironing mat and I'm going to take my tree and put it on the wrong side of my material and press that heat and bond down, design and everything. So make sure you use a permanent marker or something that's not going to disappear when the heat is added to it. Once it's cooled down, you can see that the adhesive has moved onto the material and no longer is on the paper. That's what you want. The adhesive will be on the fabric, so it'll end up on your actual fabric design. Once you've done that, then you can just trim the tree out, making sure to be careful. Now, I like this method because then the pattern is already on the adhesive paper, on the heat and bond, so I don't have to be as careful, or I don't have to worry that the pattern's going to shift. You could just apply the paper, but in the end, I like the tracing method. Okay, so now you peel off the heat and bond and you're ready to add that design to your applique project. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of my. All right, I have my pot holder back and I'm going to take my gingerbread house piece and I'm going to put it in the center of that pot holder piece and line it up, and then I'm going to press it. You can use an iron, an easy press, whatever you've got. And you can see it doesn't move. That heat and bond keeps it in place. The basting spray does the same. Then I'm going to put my 2 candy cane sides on and press. Now I'm just going to sew. I'm going to set my machine to a zigzag stitch that's very close together. It can be wide or it can be narrow. It's up to you. And I'm going to sew along those 2 straight sides of the candy canes. That's it. So the 2 sides of the candy cane is all I'm going to sew right now. And you're using what we call a satin stitch. So that's the name of that zigzag. Okay, I've got my candy canes on. Next, I'm going to put my door on. I'm going to press him right in the middle of my house. And then I'm also going to put on the the trunk of the tree on either side. It doesn't really matter which side, but kind of use that tree to help you decide. You want it close enough in that you're not going to accidentally stitch through the tree when you put your layers on. But once you have those two things pressed, you're going to again stitch around the door and stitch around the three sides. You don't need to do the top of the trunk. Then you're going to put your roof on. And your roof's a little bit trickier because your roof has the scalloped edges, but I'll kind of show you how I do that. Next, you iron your tree on, and then you're going to put your candy dots on. Now the candy dots, if you want them to stay and not have to stitch them, they can be a little tricky to stitch in a circle. If you'll use Heat and Bond Ultra doesn't need to be sewed down. So you can actually press it and they'll stay in place. But that's totally up to you. You could also paint them on if that's easier for you, but remember this is a pot holder, so whatever you use needs to be able to get hot and not be removed with that heat. Once you have them pressed, you're going to stitch around the roof first, and you're going to go around the scalloped edges. So I go around, lift my presser foot, and turn. Lift my presser foot and turn. You can kind of see how I'm going around those scalloped edges. It takes a little bit of time and a little effort, but it can look really nice, and it's just a fun edge. Okay. Now I'm going to do my tree. So coming down to my tree, I'm going to go down to the point, put my needle down, turn. Now, if you do not want to use a zigzag stitch for the tree or the scalloped edges, that would be fine if you want to use a straight stitch instead. Either of those methods are going to work. It's just going to have a different look. So it's totally up to you whether you want to use that zigzag or a straight stitch. But you're just using your needle and your presser foot to help you guide the design in the direction that you want it to go. Once you have cut your threads and you have all of the applique done, you can add the back of your pot holder and your batting to the pot holder, and you can follow the tutorial to get all of the layers stitched together and turned right side out so you can get using your pot holder today.